The smell of rosemary and garlic should have been comforting, but as I stared at the plate my mother set before me, my stomach churned with familiar dread. The chicken looked perfect, the vegetables artfully arranged, the sauce drizzled with precision. To anyone watching, it was a loving mother serving her daughter a home-cooked meal. To me, it was another test of survival. "Eat up, Sophia," my mother said, her smile never reaching her eyes. "I made it special just for you." Special. That word had taken on a sinister meaning over the past 3 years. My special meals. My special vitamins. My special tea before bed. All prepared with such care, all making me violently ill while the rest of my family thrived. "I'm not very hungry," I said quietly, pushing a piece of broccoli around my plate. Her smile tightened. "Eat every bite or you're ungrateful. Do you know how many children would kill for a mother who cooks for them?" My father looked up from his own plate, notably different from mine, I noticed, as always. "Listen to your mother, Sophia. She works hard to take care of you." My younger brother, Alex, 16 to my 19 years, shot me a warning look. He'd learned early not to question why my meals were always prepared separately, why I was the only one who got special ingredients for my sensitive stomach. I took a small bite, and immediately, the familiar metallic taste hit my tongue, hidden beneath the herbs and spices but unmistakably there. Within minutes, the room would start spinning. Within an hour, I'd be in the bathroom, retching until blood vessels burst in my eyes. By morning, I'd be weak and shaking, while my mother would coo about my delicate constitution and insist I stay home from college. "Every bite, Sophia," she reminded me, watching like a hawk. This had been my life since I turned 16. It started slowly, just feeling tired after meals, occasional nausea. "Growing pains," my mother had said. "Hormones," the doctor had agreed, after my mother described my symptoms, notably downplaying their severity. But it had gotten progressively worse. Now, at 19, I could barely keep food down, my hair was falling out in clumps, and I'd lost so much weight that people whispered about eating disorders. "Maybe I have the flu," I tried, one last desperate attempt to avoid the inevitable. "You always have something," my mother's voice turned cold. First it was allergies, then sensitivities, now the flu. "I'm tired of your excuses, Sophia. Eat." I forced down another bite, my throat closing against it. The metallic taste was stronger now, mixed with something bitter that made my eyes water. Around me, my family continued their normal dinner conversation. Alex talking about soccer practice, Dad discussing a work project. No one seemed to notice my hands shaking as I lifted the fork. That night was worse than usual. I lay on the bathroom floor, cheek pressed against the cool tile, as my body tried to expel whatever poison my mother had fed me. Between waves of nausea, I made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore. Either I was crazy, as everyone insisted, or my mother was slowly killing me. I needed proof. The next morning, weak and dizzy, I dragged myself to my part-time job at the local pharmacy. My co-worker, Jasmine, took one look at me and shook her head. "Girl, you look like death." Again. "Food poisoning," I mumbled, the lie bitter on my tongue. "You get food poisoning more than anyone I know," she said, but her voice held concern rather than suspicion. "Maybe you should see a specialist?" I'd seen specialists. 3 gastroenterologists, 2 allergists, an immunologist. My mother had been at every appointment, describing my symptoms in her own words, suggesting stress and attention-seeking behavior. The doctors had run basic tests, found nothing conclusive, and prescribed antacids and anxiety medication. But that day at work, surrounded by medications and medical supplies, a plan formed. We sold home testing kits for various things: pregnancy, drugs, allergens. What we didn't sell were toxicology kits, but I knew they existed. I just needed to figure out how to get one without raising suspicions. It took 2 weeks of research and all my savings, but I finally ordered a comprehensive toxicology testing kit online, shipped to Jasmine's apartment. She thought I was being paranoid but agreed to help. "If it gives you peace of mind," she'd said. The hard part was collecting samples. My mother watched me like a hawk during meals, but I learned to be creative. A spoonful of soup absorbed into a piece of bread, hidden in my napkin. Sauce scraped onto the underside of my plate, later transferred to a small container. Tea bags stolen from the trash after my nightly calming tea. Each sample carefully labeled and hidden in my room. I also started documenting everything. Photos of my meals, different from everyone else's. Videos of my mother preparing my food when she didn't know I was watching. Recordings of her insisting I finish every bite while others were allowed to leave food on their plates. You're getting paranoid, Alex told me one night, catching me photographing my dinner. Mom's just worried about your health. Then why is my food always different? I asked. He shifted uncomfortably. She says you have special dietary needs. What needs, Alex? What exactly is wrong with me that requires separate meals? He couldn't answer because there was no answer. The story changed depending on who asked: lactose intolerance, gluten sensitivity, iron deficiency. A rotating roster of conditions that somehow required me to eat completely different food from everyone else. 3 weeks after starting my collection, I had enough samples. I followed the kit instructions carefully, sealing everything and sending it to the independent lab with a detailed note about my symptoms. Then I waited. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at work when my phone rang, showing an unknown number. Miss Martinez? The voice was professional but urgent. This is Dr. Foster from Toxlab Solutions. I need to speak with you about your samples immediately. My heart pounded. Did you find something? Miss Martinez, where are you right now? Are you safe? I'm at work. Why? What did you find? There was a pause. Your samples contain significant levels of ethylene glycol, that's antifreeze, as well as traces of ricin and arsenic. These are not accidental contaminations. I'm legally required to report this to law enforcement. The FBI will be contacting you shortly. The phone slipped from my numb fingers. Jasmine caught it, her face paling as Dr. Foster repeated the information for her to hear. Antifreeze, she whispered. Your mother has been feeding you antifreeze? The room spun, and not from poison this time. 3 years. 3 years of being told I was paranoid, dramatic, attention-seeking. 3 years of doctors dismissing my symptoms because my mother assured them I was fine. 3 years of being slowly, methodically poisoned by the person who was supposed to protect me. Within hours, my life became a whirlwind of FBI agents, medical examinations, and emergency treatments. The levels of poison in my system were staggering, not enough to kill me outright, but enough to cause severe chronic illness. The doctors were amazed I was still functional. Ethylene glycol in small doses causes exactly the symptoms you've been experiencing, the hospital toxicologist explained. Nausea, dizziness, fatigue. Over time, it damages your kidneys and nervous system. The ricin and arsenic were likely added to enhance certain symptoms, make you weaker, more dependent. But why? I asked, though part of me already knew. The FBI agent, Special Agent Torres, had a theory. Control. Your mother exhibits signs of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. She made you sick to keep you dependent on her, to maintain her role as the devoted caretaker. They arrested her that night. I wasn't there. I was in the hospital, receiving treatment to flush the poisons from my system, but Alex called me hysterical. They took Mom, he sobbed. Dad's going crazy. He says you're lying, that you did this to yourself for attention. Alex, they found antifreeze in my food. Ricin. Arsenic. Why would I poison myself? Dad says you could have added it to frame Mom. He says you've always been jealous of her. Even with scientific evidence, my father refused to believe it. He hired the best lawyers, painted me as a disturbed young woman who'd poisoned herself to destroy her loving mother. The extended family split, some supporting me, others convinced I was a monster. But the evidence was overwhelming. The FBI searched our house and found antifreeze in the garage, normal, but also traces of it in my mother's special ingredient cabinet in the kitchen. They found ricin-containing castor beans in her greenhouse, books on poisonous plants hidden in her craft room. Most damning, they found her journal. Page after page detailed her experiments with different substances, careful notes on my reactions, adjustments to dosages. She'd written about her frustration when doctors almost discovered the truth, her joy when I was too sick to leave home. One entry stood out. Sophia tried to refuse dinner again. She's getting suspicious. I may need to increase the dose or try something new. She can't leave me. She needs me. I'll make sure she always needs me. The trial was a media sensation. The devoted mother who poisoned her daughter for attention. My father, faced with the journal and forensic evidence, finally broke down. He hadn't known, he insisted, but admitted he'd noticed my meals were always different, that my mother was obsessive about my diet, that she seemed almost happy when I was ill. I thought she was just overprotective, he said on the stand. I never imagined. My mother was convicted on multiple counts of attempted murder, assault, and poisoning. She received 25 years to life. During sentencing, she still insisted she'd only been trying to help me, that I was sick and needed her care. The judge didn't buy it. Recovery was slow. The physical damage took months to heal, kidney function to restore, nervous system damage to repair. The psychological damage took longer. Trust, once shattered, doesn't easily rebuild. But I had support. Jasmine, who'd believed me when no one else would. The medical team who saved my life. A therapist who specialized in survivors of Munchausen by proxy abuse. Alex struggled the most. The revelation that our mother had been poisoning me shattered his worldview. He'd been the golden child, healthy and thriving, while watching his sister waste away. The guilt ate at him until he finally joined me in therapy. I should have questioned it, he said during one session. Why your food was different. Why you were always sick after mom's special meals. I couldn't imagine. No child should have to imagine their mother is poisoning them, our therapist reminded him. 2 years later, I'm healthy for the first time since I was 16. I finished college, something my mother never thought I'd be able to do. I work as an advocate for others who've survived medical child abuse. I share my story, as painful as it is, because too many victims are dismissed as paranoid or attention-seeking. My father and I have a tentative relationship. He's in therapy too, dealing with his enabling behavior and willful blindness. He's asked for forgiveness, and maybe someday I'll be able to give it fully. Alex and I are closer than ever, bonded by survival and healing. Sometimes I still struggle with food. Restaurants are easier than home-cooked meals. I test everything, probably more than necessary. Trust, once poisoned, leaves a metallic taste that lingers. But I survived. Despite 3 years of being slowly poisoned, despite being called paranoid and dramatic, despite a mother who loved me so much she tried to keep me sick forever, I survived. The toxicology report that arrived that Tuesday afternoon didn't just reveal poison in my food. It revealed the truth that everyone had refused to see. And sometimes that's all you need to start healing. Proof that you were never crazy, never paranoid, never ungrateful. Just poisoned by the person who smiled while watching you eat every bite.